Take us deeper into the notion of it's bigger than Diddy. What are you saying?
Okay.
So it's funny. The last 3 hip hop videos I've done now, it started with the Kid and Play one. I touched on it again in culture. I'm with the culture feeling, and then this one is more so me wanting people to engage with the flawed nature of hip hop as a culture.
I'ma get $1 million in the bank.
What up, y'all? It's Torre. This is Rap Latte.
And this is King Green, deeper conversations about hip hop. And we are with FD. He's what the culture is feeling. You know what I'm talking about?
Woo! FD Signifier, the legendary wealthy YouTuber. Are you up to $1 billion yet? Are you a billionaire yet?
No. But I am saving to pay taxes, which is a new thing that I just started doing.
Oh,
since
yeah, that's money talk.
Before
thing.
it was like,
That's
taxes we're doing, and I was like, all right, taxes, we got to plan this out. So,
Not necessarily financial advice, but yeah, maybe you should save ahead to pay your taxes. Look, you have the internet streets, the YouTube streets waiting with bated breath for your video about Diddy. Tell me, like, can you talk about a thesis that you're working on, or things that you've, like, opinions and ideas that you have come to anew in the course of doing this research?
So the name of the video is gonna tentatively be called "It's Bigger Than Diddy," and that's really a preview of the thesis. If I'm fair, the video's only 40% about Diddy, and like the Diddiness of it all. And really, out that 40%, only like 10, 15 is about the alleged crimes of Diddy. And it's more about Diddy as like a concept and a cultural marker and a signifier, no pun intended, of like hip hop and hip hop culture, and why that's the problem.
Just for a comparison, the video you did on the battle was 3 hours, right? And
3 hours, 3.5.
3.5. And I believe you spent an hour just working up through hip hop history to get to the beginning of the battle. Is that about right?
Yes, about right.
So that was like 30% on other things and 70% on the battle. So now we're 40% on other things and 15% on Diddy.
No, I would say don't make me.
And how long is this one going to be?
This was only 2 hours. This is only
okay.
This is only 2 hours.
It took me
more
5 weeks to listen to that 3 hour. Took me 5 weeks.
I got it done in a day.
Yeah. The real ones got it done in a day. They dedicated. No, because so it's shorter because the deep lore, like to me, with the Kendrick Drake joint, I think the deep lore of like the concept of hip hop was necessary for the audience to get what I was eventually trying to lead them to about the culture, what the culture feeling, et cetera, et cetera. And then like I always know, and this is like a rule about video essays, you kind of got to treat every essay as if somebody who's never heard of you and have never heard of your topic is about to watch it for the first time. So you have to like build, that preamble into it. Maybe less sometimes than I do, but I enjoy telling the history.
I think it's important. I like that you did that.
Yeah, and because one of my things is like, I know we're getting away from the Diddy specifically, but like as a 40-year-old in hip hop, and I hear a lot of my peers, not y'all, a handful of like hip hop figureheads with podcasts and shows and whatnot. The way they talk about hip hop is so like blatantly old head to me, where it's like I can tell you're not in any kind of conversation with young people around the music and the culture. And I think that's really bad because like I remember very vividly how my uncles made me feel about hip hop. And how I didn't like it, and how I promised I would never be like that. And lo and behold, a lot of niggas is like that. And I'm like, how are y'all? Do y'all not remember these conversations we had? How are y'all so easily?
For sure.
And in this one, I extrapolated to like entertainment industry as a whole. In that, while there's all this great stuff that we love within it, it's still very much a industry built off exploitation. And so once those parts of it become like, and so within that system, there's a safe zone of exploitation, and then there's people like Diddy that's like, nah, fuck that safe zone. You know, I'm gonna do whatever I want, whenever I want, forever, because everybody kind of knew for the longest what Diddy was on. You know, you see it in his history just with his artists, let alone the uglier stuff that we're just coming out now. And so what I want to do is kind of like contextualize how Diddy, because there's already 10 other videos that said Diddy did this, did this, did this, did this, Diddy did this, then he did this. And it's like, it's very salacious. And I get it. That's part of the story. Everybody wants to know. But I'm like, do y'all understand that Diddy's alleged crimes, you can see it in how he started to make beats. Like when you look at the way Diddy handles, when you look at the way Diddy handled sampling, whereas before Diddy, sampling for the most part was, I'm gonna take this snippet of this song, I'm gonna chop it, flip it, cut it, and I'm gonna have a whole new beat based off this one piece of a song. I talk about, I actually have Justin Hunt on there. He talks about Dr. Dre with G-Funk. He was a master of it, right? You have to dig in the crates to find pieces of songs to make into hip hop beats. And Diddy was like, I just want the whole beat to the Police. I just want the whole Juicy Fruit. I'm gonna just take the whole thing. The people like it. It's gonna get the party going. It's been getting the party going since 77. I'm gonna just take the whole thing. We're gonna cut all these corners. We're gonna get right to the point. And that was, you know, obviously it worked. You know, Juicy is a classic. But it was a shortcut, and it was a shortcut based on getting to the money. It was a shortcut that didn't consider how, you know, the infamous line, it don't matter if I write rhymes, I write checks. Like that delivered an ethos throughout hip hop from that point on, and really before then, that really, if you want to like draw a through line, that line leads us to a Drake. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so like, that to me is more interesting, and that's also the thing. Like, I may have thrown a little shade at a couple of young white Gen Z creators that are talking about, that made videos about Diddy, and it's just like the list of all the things he's done. And I said, you had to Google who Craig Mack was, I don't want to watch your video. And so like,
here comes the brand new flavor in your ear.
So I feel like I uniquely, for the space I'm in, provide a perspective that can make give the topic a little more value and meat and nuance that is more enriching than us just, you know, and it's not to defend Diddy. I don't defend him in the video, but I kind of like engage with the fact that it's bigger than Diddy.
Yeah, it's not a Google search video. Like it's actual. I have context because I've been there. Just like you said, like I'm same age as you, just a older millennial, and we're like stuck in the middle. And I feel like we feel it more. I want to get back to what you said about the music and your uncle. Like we feel it more about like keeping the generations together than anybody else. Because we have the context of Tupac, but we also have the value in new. It's like we want to modernize, we want to push things forward, but we also have so much value in like hip hop starting apart. You know what I'm saying? Like we have that in our bones. So I think that's interesting, which brings me to asking you about your ability to absorb Playboi Carti's music. I want to know where you're at in your process. Where are you at in the process? Because I love Playboi Carti.
Those days are over.
Yeah, we're done.
This is a video that you're building, talking about how, as an elder millennial, you don't really understand Playboi Carti, even though you want to, right? That's what you're working on.
Well, yeah. So I did it started with, I don't know if you see, that's on the side channel. I already dropped that a little while ago.
Oh, okay.
And I can't even remember how I got there. I don't remember how. I know I got like some peers that I like in community with that I messaged back and forth that are like in their early 20s that love them some Playboi Carti. And they've been talking about it for years. I'm like, yeah. and then when I finally heard it, I was like, it was that Jay-Z meme where he's like shaking his head and looking away, trying to find the thing.
The beat.
And so, yeah, trying to find the beat. And so that's how it's been. But like, it's so clear, so many of the young people, because I have a young audience, a chunk of it is young, I should say. Normally, I may not like it, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't like a lot of the Curtis King calls the little voice rappers, the 3-letter rappers. I don't like it, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? I can, and every once in a while they'll drop something I'm like, yeah, I get that. That's cool. And so the Rage, Rico Nasty, I like and get. Denzel Curry, Mario Judah.
Let me suggest one thing to you that I've been dealing with as a person who loved this culture since the first day I heard Rapper's Delight and never wanted to be so old in the ears that I was like, it was better in my day, right? Like my father was like, music was better in my day. I had never wanted to be that guy. I always wanted to be like, I understand where hip hop is. And it may not move me like the music when I was 18 or 25, but like I get it. I understand. I can still rock with it. But something happened. I think from the 80s to the 90s, most rappers got more lyrical dexterity, right? Like ball players are able to shoot farther, like mouths got sharper, and people rhymed faster, and they put more words in verses, so the songs got denser. By the end of the 90s, there was no more density than you could have than somebody like an Eminem or sometimes Jay-Z or sometimes Nas, right? That you couldn't get more dense than their music. So the music had to go in the opposite direction with more space and rappers rhyming more slowly. And that created an original idea for them. So that generation was like, good, we have our own sound. But the older generation was like, they rhyme so slow. Like, how is this hip hop? We need more.
And the songs are short.
The songs are short, but think about it.
And I think, and also the political spine that we saw in the late 80s and the 90s, Public Enemy, X-Clan, KRS, PRT, Paris, Arrested Development, etc., that didn't really rise up in the 00s and the 10s. So we're like, where are you guys politically? So just talk about some of that as like the culture changed and we want to continue to love it, but some of the things that we loved about it were not echoed in what the 00s and the 10s rappers wanted to do.
Yeah, so I wouldn't even say the 00s and the 10s because that's like, I'm a little younger than you. That's my heyday. And so we do have, the Talib Kweli's and the Mos Defs, Dead Prez, probably one of the most radical groups of all time. But it does happen. I can't. I'm never beating these allegations. Right around when Drake comes out, is when I think there's like a clear line of demarcation between hip hop's political inclinations and like of the past into now. Whereas now I can't think of a single mainstream. Well, and there's so many other things. Like I don't want to blame it just on the culture. There's a lot of outlier elements to like how music is consumed, who's allowed to create it and control it now. The what is it? The Clear, I don't know if it's Clear Channel, whatever government rule that allow people to buy up radio stations where every radio station around the country is controlled by like 3 companies. Yeah, that means maybe you don't get a Public Enemy song on the radio anymore. You can only get.
But let me push back on that a little bit. Like Talib, Dead Prez, these are not mainstream artists. Like that's right. Mainstream. So
at the time they were.
No,
they weren't. No, they weren't. Not like PE. KRS was like NWA.
Tribe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then moving into
Tribe too.
Even moving into the 2010s, when you said Drake kind of created that mark and that separation or segregation, I feel like he came in 2009, correct? We get the blog era, as you were a part of. You remember getting all these things, like all these mixtapes, and we had those people in the blog era because they were just harking back to the like 90s and going over 90s beats and talking. And there was political rappers, there was artistic rappers, all that, but it became this amalgamation type of version. Like the J. Coles and the Kendricks are like the top of the amalgamated rapper aesthetic that came out of the blog era. And I feel like sometimes because of how the music industry democratized, right, we don't realize that those underground rappers are everywhere. They're just not as big visually as maybe a Talib was. Like you were like almost fed Talib on the magazines and Mos Def and Raucous Records and all these things. So you would see and know that that's the other. But Jay-Z sold 5 million records while the Roots came out and were playing 500 cap clubs, right? But Jay-Z sold 5 million records. So that that gap is the same nowadays, where someone's gonna.
So I would. So I think you're correct. I do think one thing to add to that is there is no mainstream now. Is another thing that kind of like affects our perception. And like one of the top selling albums of last year was freaking Scaring the Hoes with JPEG Mafia and
I love that album.
Danny Brown, and I love it too. So like it really is complex in that it's not that certain types of hip hop doesn't exist anymore or isn't even prevalent or relevant, I should say. Maybe not prevalent, but relevant. But there's no longer a filtering system to show us who the superstars are. Because as you said, it's democratized, people are, in air quotes, voting for what they want to see. But if everybody has a vote, it ain't like the election where you got two main people and then like two or three extra folks just on the side. It's literally hundreds of rappers to all get your attention and money. And if I only like, I call it musty basement hip hop of the modern era, your Denzel Curry, the JPEG Mafia, Billy Woods, etc. If that's my thing, I'm never gonna dabble in I don't know, what's the new dude? Big X the Plug. You know what I'm saying? I'm never gonna find that guy. If I and does that mean Big X the Plug is not a big deal? Well, it's hard to say. He isn't to me.
Hold on,
and I'm not saying
I feel like a lot of 90s folks, there was a political implication attached to their movement, right? Snoop Dogg is not Public Enemy, but I felt a political implication attached to his success. And I'm talking about when we had more Gangsta Snoop, Murder is a Case, Bitches Ain't Shit, like that early chronic doggy style level Snoop, right? Same with Jay-Z. I felt a political implication in him being on these records and being out in the world and taking the hood in his way out into the world. When you get to a later generation and it's the Migos and it's Drake, and I'm not dissing them, but I'm like, I don't feel a political or socio-political implication to your movement. And I feel almost like a selfishness, like I'm here for myself rather than I'm doing it for my hood, which, wasn't always real, but that was the feel. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that some of the folks that we are asked to love who are super popular within the culture, there's a whole different halo around them.
Do you not think it's implicit? And I could further elaborate on that.
Yeah, elaborate. I'm not sure if I do.
Well, okay, this is how I relate to the young ones, and I'm gonna relate it to a question and ask FD this too. If you're not familiar, you know Picasso, right? Picasso brings in Cubism and all that from a time where everyone's drawing exactly what they see. Like I draw a landscape, and then now I'm gonna look at this abstractly, which Picasso stole that concept from Africa. He went to Africa, just to let people know that history. So he
tried to deny it later in life, but it's like, all right, bro.
We know what you did and we know what you said.
Course.
So, anyways, he moved. So Mondrian, who's more of a person coming after Picasso, I see Mondrian as a Playboy Cardi, where Mondrian is famous for the painting of the squares using the primary colors. And he used to do landscapes his entire life. And then one time, just after looking and being influenced by Picasso, was like, I can simplify this because it's implied through the lines and the primary colors. Like you're using all these colors and to make this tapestry of this landscape, but it's really just these three primary colors. Meaning that I'm saying the same thing what you're saying because I have the context of whatever you have said already. I don't need to redraw the landscape that someone's already drawn a million times. I'm going to abstract it. And that's what I feel what Playboy Cardi and all these people do. And it's even in their lyrics because they don't even write their own lyrics. It's not even, their punchlines are Lil Wayne punchlines. Like how many times have I heard Black and White Diamonds like apartheid from like a 20-year-old?
When you say they aren't writing, you mean they're not using pen and paper or somebody else is writing for them?
Well, I think it means like...
Yeah, you mean the Lil Wayne method.
They are abstracting hip-hop from all of what it is so it's implicit of all the context of hip hop. I'm taking everything. Instead of drawing this landscape for you to understand perfectly that it's a landscape, I'm going to simplify it because I'm I'm giving you the feeling and the abstraction of it versus the landscape, and the context is already built in. And you could hear that in the lyrics when you actually dive into it, because it's like, I'm not even giving you a new idea. I'm not even giving you a new bar. I'm taking other bars, putting them all together. We're all saying the same things, and it's implicit. That's how I view it, because I'm looking at what's actually just, I agree with what you said earlier, whereas there's so much density in the lyrics. So you're going to go, as a kid, you're going to look at all this density and you're going to fight back. I'm not going to do what this old guy did. I'm going to fight back. Mm-hmm. But they're actually drawing from all that.
I actually agree with you here. And that's, if you go to that video, I arrive at the realization that even though I don't like Cardi, I think he's probably a genius in a specific way that's hard to appreciate if you came up on that dense boom bap lyrical miracle era, in that he's creating an extension of hip hop and a version of it musically without any of the structural. I compared it to punk rock, and I actually got that from Anthony Fantano years ago. Yeah, where it's like that whole post block era into the SoundCloud era. That was like a punk rock phase that emerged out of hip hop, because you had not just the democratization of culture, but the democratization of being able to make the music, where everybody suddenly had Fruity Loops and enough equipment to make a beat machine in their basement. And so you had people blowing up from their bedroom in ways where before you had to do showcases and, cypher on the block, and you had to be known in your area. Right. But it's now like, I'm gonna go viral, Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy made a whole album off Fruity Loops, and he just had such a thing for melodies and catchiness that he became this huge phenomenon. And then when the industry was like, all right, thank you, that's enough, he was like, no, I'm not finished. Here's some beats. Here's some more hits that you wasn't even expecting from me. And so I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's beautiful. I just wish I could get jiggy with it.
Yeah. Subjectively or taste-wise, you're just like,
what do we do with Kanye, who said pro-Nazi, pro-Hitler things, didn't really genuinely atone and explain that stuff, said anti-black things on many occasions, didn't at all atone for that? Should we still check the music? Can we go back to rocking with it? Is it like, if he comes with another My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, then we're gonna forget the pro-Nazi stuff and still rock out to him? Or like,
when did this happen?
Where are you on that?
I haven't heard or seen anything from Kanye since The Life of Pablo. I thought he'd never made another album after that. And like,
no, he's working on an album now. He dropped Vultures. I believe
he hasn't heard nothing from Life of Pablo. That's how
you're just pretending he does not.
I'm just in denial.
I'm just in denial. You're just in denial. No. Doesn't exist. Hey, look. Look. In my world, Quentin Tarantino hasn't made a movie in 8 years, so I get you.
Wait. What do we have wrong with? I gotta talk about Quentin later. All right. What's the issue?
Hateful Eight was horrible, and that Hollywood movie was horrendous. Please, FD, continue.
I wanted to see that Hollywood. Well, all right, we don't get too much off subject. So I've been developing a new way of thinking about these things, really since the election. In that, I think so. There's several things happening. So I want to get the clear, obvious stuff out the way. Kanye is very problematic. Kanye's music has been bad for like several albums straight now. If not bad, then at a minimum, well below what we expect from a Kanye, right? Mm-hmm. And there's no indication that he's going to change or learn from any type of criticism publicly, right? So so do with that what you will, personally, on a personal level. Mm-hmm. I think fundamentally, though, we have to get away from this very, I don't want to call it shallow, I'll say misguided way of thinking that we're going to define our own moral quality through what we consume, and be in the business of judging and criticizing people for consuming a thing that is not, not moral or is problematic, etc. I think there's a gap between, maybe you don't listen to R. Kelly when he was still popping, when he wasn't in jail, because listening to R. Kelly helped him fund a criminal sex enterprise. So there's like that, right? But that's rare. For the most part, it's people aren't necessarily perfect people, or they have some bad moments in their past, or they're just assholes in the current. I don't think there's a ton of use in, like, we can still talk about the thing. I just made a video about Kanye a little while ago explaining my new feelings on him, but I'm never going to stop listening to Dark Fantasy. I'm never going to stop listening to Yeezus. And I'm always going to see what it sounds like when he drops something new, to see if there's like a glimmer of that old thing there.
That old thing there.
So wait, I feel you. I feel you, but I think the test you're imposing is a little. I want to shift it a little bit, because I'm not doing it as a political gesture. Like, I'm mad at you. You have you, performer, have clouded our relationship, in that when I hear your voice and I see you, I'm not thinking, I like this song, I like this album, I'm interacting with this music. I'm thinking, but you still haven't said shit about the MAGA shit. You still haven't said shit about Hitler. You haven't, like, I'm dealing with Hitler, I'm dealing with Trump, I'm dealing with like, God damn, nigga, you messed it up for me. Like, I wanted to like you. I can't listen to R. Kelly and not thinking about the bullshit, right? So
I'm from Chicago.
You put a barrier in between my relationship with you. I wanted to rock with you. You're making it hard for me.
Yeah. No. So that's all real and true. And I feel the same way. I grew up, R. Kelly was a soundtrack to every homecoming dance I ever went to. And when his music comes on, and for a while, I could fight through it, like with R. Kelly. But after a while, I was like, oh, all I can think about is the things that I know now.
The bullshit.
And we're gonna turn it down. With Kanye, he had a song, Carnival, on Vultures One. And this is when it kind of locked in for me. And what is she ride a dick like a carnival? Something. Yeah. And I was like, I might have liked this if I didn't know you was a Nazi. Because now this is no longer funny tongue in cheek. I think this is just the goofy shit you're really about now. Yeah. Kanye has bars.
I would like this if you wasn't a Nazi.
That particular group chanting on Carnival was definitely giving me neo-Nazi Proud Boy energy.
Even the imagery gave that, and the way that it moved on TikTok. So I completely agree. But I remember you said something in one of your recent videos. I think it was a video that I watched yesterday about Gladiator 2, and you said you're in a space where you're separating your media entertainment from your political views. Like, you're not connecting these two things like holistically.
I'm not requiring them to be definitional to what my beliefs are and who I am, and I'm not gonna argue or abide by people that want to do that. I think, especially on the left, like the aftermath. I know we don't get too political. I'll just say, and I wasn't a huge Kamala Harris supporter, as Teray knows, we talked before, but I still, voted for her. But the aftermath and like the finger pointing of that brought me to this point where we really are mostly just swinging at air and hitting whoever is close to us with a lot of this. And if we don't kind of like elevate our analysis, we're going to continue to do that. And one thing I think happens a lot is these proxy fights around where you can't say anything because you like this person, and you can't say anything because you like that person. Yeah, and it's just a waste of time.
We three black men who didn't vote for Trump. Wow.
Definitely
right. They make it seem like it was such a rare thing.
Both times didn't vote for Trump.
Right.
You got to put it out there now. No, but let me just say that like with the Kanye thing is like, I have the same sentiment as with his new music that you're talking about with Carnival and all these things, even though I like what Cardi did on there, because I'm a Cardi fan of the art. But I've always separated the art from the person as much as I can. Because if it boils over, like you're doing some Nazi stuff and all that stuff, it's like hard because of what they're saying. And when you lose your writers that Kanye had with those earlier albums, but they were all super Afrocentric, super blackity black albums that said amazing things. So when I listen to College Dropout, you just said if it's Nazi, that's too much. Well, yeah, there's a lot of shit that I would accept. He crashed his car into somebody and drove off. Like, I'm talking about his old music. DUI.
That was horrible. But
I'm talking about his old music. Is not that. So I can separate what his new. I'm not gonna not listen to his old music when he's saying things like when he get on, he leave your ass for a white girl. That might have been Rhyme Fest that came up with that bar.
That was definitely a Kanye bar. Come on now. That's exactly what he did. He was telling us the truth. he knew exactly what he was planning.
But he made it look at the time like it's like, yo, I'm not gonna do that. And he had a Delta like girlfriend at the time. We knew that because you probably were college age at the time too. So that meant a lot to a lot of people at that time. For us, like we were like Kanye speaking for us, like the black collegiate community. We were like, wait a minute.
Right.
There's a lot of us in HBCUs. Yeah, and he's rapping to us. It was amazing. So I didn't go to HBCU, but I'm just saying, talking about from that perspective. Yeah. But what I'm saying is I'm still gonna listen to that old shit. There was a group effort to make these great albums, and I'm gonna put it on this one man. His new albums, I'm not so quick to listen to. You said you'd listen to it. I don't know if I'd listen to this new album with such anticipation and as the
it's anticipation like getting the flu shot. It's not even like
I'm like FD in that I will have to listen to it. I've been rocking with Kanye since Through the Wire, since Single One. I got to see where this movie goes. I may only listen to the album once or twice because the person you are has really disgusted me, and I can't have a close parasocial relationship with you now, knowing what I know. But I can't not check. I can't not dip my head in and go, well, where's he at now? Because it's been a career that's been really interesting artistically to watch. He's an artist who's let himself grow and change. And I'm super curious about like, okay, where is your head musically now? Okay, great. I saw that. I'm out. I can't like live here.
Can't live here. And you don't want to. Like the music is just bad. Like Vultures 1 is bad. I didn't even bother to listen to Vultures. I will say that. Vultures 2 I didn't bother to listen to. Donda was bad.
There was some production on Donda.
It's a couple of dope moments on Donda, but I think I fully gave up when I heard Life of the Party. I'll never forget this because like I think I had just made my Kanye video.
With 3000?
Right, but Pete, I hear it because I don't know if it didn't make the album. I can't remember the whole story. I think it didn't make the album initially. Yeah, it didn't make the album initially. And so it popped up on on the YouTube B-sides or whatever. And I hear Andre spit this verse about his mother. And I'm like, fucking shit. I may have paused it just to let it soak in for a second.
Amazing.
That verse is amazing.
Then here come Kanye talking about Pete Davidson dick and shit. I'm like, what the fuck, Kanye? How did you let Andre send you that?
Why
and
did
then you spit a verse about Drake and Pete Davidson?
You got to go over your verse. You got to do something else. I'll save the Pete Davidson for something else. Right?
Yeah, like what are you doing? That's the worst. It was the worst thing since. Oh my god, I was just so frustrated, and I was like, this nigga's never coming back. He's never gonna get it. It's never gonna get better. I'm gonna just quietly.
I skip to that verse.
I want to ask Green something as an artist and a student of artists, because we see repeatedly when rappers get to about 40, for like 98% of them, they can't compete anymore. It's similar to athletics. Is there something physical that happens? Is it your changing relationship to the culture because you're a grown up and most of the audience is under 25? Like, what happens that you can kill the world at 30, but at 40, it's very, very hard for MC to be part of the culture?
I would say that that's not true as of now, and I'm gonna say why it was true before. I think it's more so because of if you started early and you're doing it for decades, that's the part where you're gonna run out. You burn out. That's why it happens. I think artistically you burn out because you're literally talking and creating a diary of your life and these time capsules. That's what albums used to be versus these snapshots. And now when you're doing these snapshot stuff, it's just frivolous music, that mixtapes that you're putting out with the same concept over and over again. Whereas when you talk about underground, when you talk about JPEG and freaking,
like Billy Woods is in his 40s, if I'm not mistaken, and I feel like he didn't start getting big until a couple of years ago.
Griselda.
You think there's burnout that happens because you can only create so much great stuff?
I think most people, I think with art in general, this burnout when you're a YouTuber, I think there's burnout as a creative. And it's just that rap albums used to be within a 2-year cycle, and then they started becoming within a 1-year cycle, and then mixtapes was like every 4 months. You burn the hell out. And once you get cake, I wake up with my wife. These rappers got wives and families. I wake up with my wife. It's like, I don't want to rap about this shit, but they feel like they have to. So when you actually grow, Kendrick could rap till he's 67 years old. I thought Kanye could do it. He could have if he didn't go crazy. Like there was like Kanye's musical sensibilities and his ability to tap into now is still like impressive, like ridiculously impressive. So it's about you burning out. It has nothing to do with age. And I think that's where 3K is, where he's burnt out, but it feels like something hit him. I don't know. This is me just being happy. I heard some things from certain rappers.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the air a little bit,
right?
But
it feels like
I
he's
don't know.
gonna
Somebody, one of these blog people said there's also possibly some label shit because they didn't count the Flute album for his contract.
Well, yes, he explained why that was. They didn't count it because it was a Flute album. It's not that he did the Flute album because they weren't going to count it, right? They were like, this is not close enough to your previous. So
he's gonna get some vocals on something.
I bet they thought that it would be crap and it would sell wood. And I wonder if they changed their mind after they saw the album sold pretty well and he was able to tour behind it.
No, why would you do that? As a company, the label would never do that. It's like, oh, thank you for this album that we're sharing profits on, but this contract here says that your album has to be 90% like the last album. This album is 100% not like the last album. Therefore, we all made money, but give me another album, bruh. Like I need one gets 90%.
And he's doing another Flute album. I mean, I guess he says he's
I don't know if it's going to be a Flute album.
He's not dying to get through the deal. I don't think his music career is of tremendous value to him at this moment in his life. So he may not even care to fight.
Did y'all catch Andre like wandering through the world with his flute? Because like I'm in Atlanta, and you would just see Andre riding on East Atlanta. Not riding, walking by himself, no security in East Atlanta with his flute in the airport playing his flute. He told me that he spends the overwhelming majority of his time alone, like 90% of his time alone, which I think is extraordinary. Like most people don't spend most of the time alone, but he's able and he spiritually needs to do that. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but I do wish he would pick the mic back up.
Hell yeah.
I hope he puts a couple verses on the next Flute album. That's why I feel like it might happen.
There you go.
Just like a verse. Yeah, Flute Print.
Flute Print 2.
Flute Print 2.